Welcome aboard, Earthlings. You have been captured by the Universe Egg. And now you will be forced to do your anniversary special to sip to me, the Universe Egg. And if I decree that your episode was not satisfactorily entertaining, the podcast will end here. I will first introduce each and every one of you who have been taken out of your day-to-day lives to present this weird, grubby little Doctor Who rewatch podcast. First of all, starting with royalty, it is King Ben.
Hello.
And then to his left, we have the main co-host. He deals in animals and has fired many a gun. It is Peter. And last of all, she has been a special guest on several occasions. It is the beautiful Donna! And it's me. It's your boy, Regan. We have done it. We've done a year of Doctor Who podcastery. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the end.
What's Doctor Who? Sorry.
Well, I'm very glad you've asked because you've come to the right place. But yes, this is the first time. Is this the first time on a podcast at all for you?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blimey.
It's used microphones before.
That's true.
So
You are partial to a microphone?
It descends into.
Don't know why I made it weird.
Very quickly.
But yes,
I like microphones.
you do. Yes, so we are not going to be doing a specific episode today. We are instead going to be tackling... let's start, first of all, Ben, when did you start off with Doctor Who? I realise that I'm playing very copyrightable music just in the background, so I'm going to mute that. But when did you start watching Doctor Who?
Ooh. I remember when I was probably about 10, there was a rerun of a William Hartnell one.
Oh, blimey. Okay. OG.
Probably the first one. It said,
Was it weird caveman people and...
no, it was with Daleks.
Oh, okay, so that was his second story, I
Second
imagine,
story.
yeah.
And didn't really enjoy it. And then...
It is a classic.
I suppose as a 10-year-old, it's quite dated.
It's quite dated.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
And it's just like bins on wheels.
Oversimplifying the Daleks there, Ben, just a tad.
Well, to be perfectly honest, the only thing they're good for is unclogging toilets, right?
Well, one of
The
their...
old...
Yeah, one of their
Sorry, that's not
appendages.
noise.
They're also good for, like,
boys
universe
will discuss
obliteration. They do that on occasion.
And then I think just my mum and dad were talking about behind the sofas with the Cybermen, all that. So then when Christopher Eccleston came, it looked like a fun thing for I don't know how old I'd have been at that point, but teenage-ish.
Don't tell me,
12?
it'll be too young.
Yeah, probably.
I think
You
I was
know.
about 11, 12 when it started.
Yeah, so it's one of those where it was advertised well, I think.
Donna.
And so, sorry, Donna, yeah. You were around for William Hartnell, weren't you? But yeah, so I think
You dick.
the trailer was just good, and I thought, let's give this
It
a
was
go.
a really good trailer, actually.
Yeah.
I remember the trailer being like, wow.
So yeah, I think we just started watching it, and then Mum and Dad sort of talked more about Doctor Who, and then I watched some of the old ones. My dad's favourite's Patrick Troughton.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So he talked a lot about him. But yeah, I've watched them all. Didn't enjoy them all. Watched them all.
Fair.
Very, very nice. So, I suppose we're hoping that you might bring some clarity to a certain...
He's bringing some shit stirry is what he's doing.
Well, okay. So let's tackle this first, and then we'll double back to a certain thing that we've already talked about. So I tasked everyone aboard this this prison ship, if you like. The homework of watching a episode of Doctor Who, if you like, that is about the science of Doctor Who.
You pranked me
And-
then because I thought I don't remember homework, but I have.
I don't suppose it counts for us because we watched it together.
Yeah.
But yes, where a Brian Cox, famous scientist and never once proven wrong individual, goes through certain elements of the much beloved grubby time travelling show and tackles certain elements of it and proves it all to be correct and factual.
He just says it's all correct. He doesn't prove it all correct. He says it's all correct.
So I suppose let's tackle the elephant in the room first of all. I think it was the one, Donna, that you had the biggest issue with when it came to what he was saying, is the ability to time travel forward. And this is explained.
I had less issue with that than the backwards one.
Okay, but you still had...
Oh, I've got issues with it.
So, to depict the way that time works, first of all, Brian gets I think it's another scientist, and gets him to sit on a trolley with a little light-up torch.
Yeah.
Shiny bald man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He brings real attention to this gentleman's lack of hair, and gets him to represent the ticking, is it like pendulum of a clock?
Yeah.
Pushing the light up and down. And then when he's doing that, he then positions his hands above and below to represent mirrors, and then moves the trolley back and forth, and he continues that motion. Once he's done that, he then does a triangular depiction of the experiment and shows that despite the fact that the gentleman was moving the light at the same speed, it was taking longer for the light to go from the bottom to the top
But it
when
wasn't.
the gentleman was moving.
But it was.
But
Didn't feel like it was.
But it was.
It wasn't. It was. I will do what I did to you last night.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
They're still going up and down at the same speed.
Yeah, but the difference is that you're stationary.
It's the same.
This is great podcast as well.
We always do visuals and then we're like,
Yeah,
oh,
we're like, oh,
you
yeah,
can't-
that doesn't
you
work.
can't see what I'm doing. Yeah.
That's for the Patreons.
It was hitting the top and hitting the bottom at the same time.
Yeah, but again, that's for you. And for us,
What's-
all
what-
not moving it.
Okay.
Peter?
Yeah.
I'm not science, so I feel like a lot of what we're saying is bull because we can't clarify this. But it is travelling a further distance as it goes
Yes.
than up and down.
Yes.
Because if you go up and down rather than across and down, you are travelling further.
Yeah, but travelling, he was talking about time, not distance. And don't come up with the,
No,
they're
no,
the
but
same
then-
thing, because
no,
he
it's not
tried
the same
that.
thing. It's not the same thing. But if you're saying it goes up and down at the same time, that is correct.
Yeah.
But he is travelling a further distance, so he's technically going further in the same amount of time. So it is.
Yeah, but he came
travelling.
back on himself, so...
No, don't ignore that.
Well, he just went
Pretend he's not
backwards.
going backs and forwards, but
And then he
he's
came forward
carrying
again.
on though, isn't he? But he's still travelling a further distance. If you're, it's the same thing as like the shortest space between A to B is a straight line. But if you wiggle, you're going further, but you are still going to arrive at the same place at the same time. With regards to that light, so he is travelling further than he is from going up and down. And then you're saying he's arriving at the same point at the same time, but he is travelling further.
But what
I'm
was
actually
it?
really angry that you're right.
But what was it? What was it representing? I don't know. I didn't actually get that point because he just said thanks and then moved on to
Time.
something else.
It's representing time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but time and what? Time and distance and time and space.
Right, but now say what you said about your music.
No, because we'll get to that. Don't worry, I'm not going to hide that because I
Okay.
know that everyone
He
here
was
may
trying to illustrate
lose their mind.
the idea of
Yes.
time travel.
Yeah.
So the way he was then saying was that if that bloke had then travelled in a rocket
Yeah.
and come back to Earth, like he'd gone for like 5 years and come back in 10 years at the speed of light,
It's 99.94%
Yeah.
the speed of light. Yeah.
then he would come back.
It would have taken
It would take him
10
longer to get.
It would have taken him 10 years, but it would have taken us 29.
29.
And with the experiment, it's proved because
Oh.
the gentleman is still moving.
Sorry, don't use the word proved. In science, we don't.
Highly plausible.
It is evidenced.
It is evidence that to the gentleman's perspective, he's still moving the light up and down, But from our perspective, it's moving in a triangular formation and
A
taking...
wave. It was a wave.
No, well, he says triangular, which it is, because then you put the light mirrors above and below and it's triangular.
That's, yeah.
It was a wave.
And to him, it's taking the same time as before he was moving, but to us, the audience looking at him doing that, it's taking longer for the light to go from the bottom of the triangle to the top.
So we're saying that the TARDIS goes at like 50 million light years
Well, no, because
get to that, to be that quick, to get to like
yes,
2,000 years in the future.
yes,
It takes 10
It's
years.
instantaneous, basically. Yeah.
yeah, it goes 99.94 times however many.
Well, Brian Cox also said that in our universe it's impossible to go at the speed of light. So therefore, end of podcast.
No, Ben.
No, but if that's the way that works.
No.
And then he said just a few sentences later that in our universe that can't happen.
That just tells us that Doctor Who can't exist in this universe.
What he said.
End of podcast.
What he said was.
I feel like Ben wants to go home.
What he said was, with our technology, with the abilities within our universe, we could go to 99.94% the speed of light, which would allow us to, I think it's 20 years for us that the astronaut would have been gone, but then he returns and it's only been 5 for him.
I thought it was
He
10
was
for
gone
him and
for 10,
29
yeah.
for us.
He was
Oh, okay, yeah.
29.
Yeah, okay. So you're knocking... he's been gone nearly 1/3, or just over 1/3 of the time. Yes.
It'd be a very long show if every Doctor Who episode was 10 years, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, okay. But within our capability, we can only do that amount of time travel.
Got
We
ya.
can't do quite that leap.
Can't do TARDIS level shit.
Yeah.
No.
Still don't get how this links to fishes, but
We'll get there, King Ben.
He'll make it link to fish.
Don't you worry.
Yes, I will. But here's I'm going to be devil's advocate in this and say that there's probably not a ship with our current technology, the way that we usually design a ship, that would allow us to get to that speed without everyone being essentially slammed,
Oh, everyone would be atomised,
and
right?
dead. So
We'd like arrive there, but we'd be a puddle of goo on the floor.
what if we were to construct a ship that obviously travels in that direction at that speed, but there's an interior that spins, therefore creating its own gravity, kind of like our Earth's core, and
A bit like the Interstellar ship.
almost cancels out the G-force that you're feeling from the ship itself. It's curving it around the body of that cylinder, as opposed to much like a non-camoed TARDIS is
The circle.
circle as opposed to a square, and can then
You got
ricochet.
a nod from Ben then.
Yeah. It's the
Sarcastic nod,
It's
but-
the only one I'm gonna get. And I'll take it. But yeah, so that would then take away the brunt of the G-force. In theory, you could then make a ship that would
I hit my microphone,
do.
I'm sorry.
I did hear it.
I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
It's not like I've been doing this for a year.
Yeah, you could then survive that G-force and have a ship that would then get to that speed. So in theory, it is possible with the Brian Cox light stick and the triangles, Donna,
The
that
waves, yeah, the waves.
a travelling into the future, admittedly not significantly far, but 10 or so years into the future is possible.
that's the question I was going to ask.
Years.
So the shorter amount of time you do it, the less extra time or less...
Yeah.
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 So for a normal everyday job, you can go into the future about 2 more seconds.
How short is your work?
Well, no, I'm just saying, what percentage would it be?
So it
It
would
was
be
about a third.
yeah, about a third. So you'd be able to knock off 2 to 3 hours of your work.
So if you travelled a day, it would be 3 days. That kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all crap, though, isn't it?
I mean, admittedly, Ben, with the technology that exists within this apartment, we may not be able to build it now.
Yeah.
But it was the travelling back in time, Donna, that I think you had the greatest issue with.
I had the greatest issue with all of it. But
I had issues with other bits.
Oh, okay.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Pete, do you want to take a little
Does
bit?
Donna want to take it?
So should we first of all go through what the theory was
Yeah, go on then.
behind? So Brian Cox speculated that in order to travel back in time, you would, one of the very key ingredients is a black hole. You do need that.
So have one of them in your back pocket.
Yeah, well,
then you're all good.
Got
But
one in the TARDIS basement, eh?
But and I'm going to need people to interject if I have got this wrong, but you need to essentially go towards it and then, so you don't die, kind of slingshot around it to then bring yourself back, and you will have, in theory, gone back in.
But at that point, you would have been atomized.
Spaghettified,
Yes.
Spaghetti.
So you need
yeah.
something that can withstand the pressures of a black hole tearing
Which Brian Cox said in the video, nothing can.
nothing that we know of.
Oh, snap!
Well, then we can say that about anything, isn't it? There could be the Force. We don't know.
Yeah, but we could argue that the majority, if not everything that we've seen enter a black hole has been dead rock and atoms and stuff. Nothing's attempting to get away from that black hole. Everything is dead and lifeless and willingly being pulled into it. Nothing has...
We haven't got close enough to a black hole to really know that.
No,
anyway, do we?
no, we haven't, no. But
So it's all just...
we understand that it would be a great amount of force that we'd have to use in order to
Yeah.
resist, if not somehow pull away from
I've
a
seen
black
all the films.
Yeah.
They all die. They all die. Nothing works.
Matthew McConaughey didn't.
In what?
Interstellar.
The Doctor didn't in the Satan pit.
That's true.
Yeah.
Was that a black hole? I thought
Yeah,
that was a devil.
Well, the devil was definitely part of it, but he was residing like underneath the asteroid that was being slowly pulled into the black hole.
yeah.
And he was the thing that was stopping, his prison was the thing that was stopping the asteroid from being pulled in.
Got ya.
Um,
Doctor Who's very silly, isn't it?
Yes, that's
It's
the whole
very-
That's
point.
great.
It's very silly. This.
It is, which is why I think this whole episode was a bit daft.
Yeah, but imagine if you like started off a sci-fi show, because I imagine in the 60s most people didn't have a great understanding of the universe and how things worked, and if there was an understanding, it wasn't available to the BBC in order to just, or if
But
it
when did
was,
Einstein do his stuff?
Before that.
Before that. So it hasn't really changed since Einstein's viewpoint. That's why he was talking about it a lot.
Yeah.
true.
So they would have known. So they
Okay.
could have been better.
But with £2 and a packet of Smarties, Ben, and a studio that was leaking.
wheelie bins,
Yeah.
as you called them.
Yes.
They are a bit wheelie binny, aren't they?
I think
They're
it's
like compost pots.
They're
oversimplifying
beautiful.
the most iconic villain of Doctor Who, possibly sci-fi
Ever.
But yeah, so he says that you would need a black hole, and he depicted, and you did take some serious issue with the depiction of this. He got a very fun chap in tweed to put on a clock rucksack that had a big old clock on the back of it, and tell him to walk towards a picture of the Eye of Harmony, which, of those who aren't in the know, is the black hole that the TARDIS uses for fuel, and walk towards it. And as he did, the clock that he had on his back was slowing down to the audience, but the clock that was on his wrist continued at his regular pace. It was...
I just had an issue with him kept going, look at your watch, is it the same? Of course it's the same. You haven't touched the watch. Of course it's going to run the same.
He was just making the point of the difference between
Rubbish.
the two.
Yes,
It's
because
annoying.
it would have been fairly chaotic for the audience had he been like, and this is my black hole. And yeah, so that's what I understand is the formula. You do need a black hole in order to slingshot your way around it, and then you can travel back in time.
But you can't.
No, because the cones of
The light cones.
cones of light only allow you to go that way.
Yeah, but as you're going towards the black hole, the cones of light shift.
Yeah, but he was saying that
And
they
then you get
haven't
stuck anyway.
they haven't found a way of, if it is possible technically for that line that he was showing to curve. He couldn't explain any of it, but he couldn't explain
True.
getting around all the way back
Yes, he
into it.
couldn't.
The way he showed that was rolling a piece of paper into a cylinder.
Yeah.
So that's
That would work
science.
in-
And
that
I
was-
was like, no. And he was like, why? Why?
But that was working on theory, complete theory based. So
This is all theory. This is the
Yeah.
problem, right?
But like they can prove elements of that black hole.
Can't prove a thing. You can do a,
They,
a
what did you
mathematical
say?
equation.
What did you say? You can highly evidence that can happen.
Yeah.
But he was taking it one step further to beyond ability to prove or evidence.
This is what I think about
This
science,
could
right? I'm going in, right?
Oh, he's going hard! He's going hard!
All of these equations that everyone can prove, right? Almost 99% of the population will not understand what that is.
Absolutely.
Is showing, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There is no way that someone hasn't at some point made a mistake. And no one spotted it. Because if the most intelligent people in the world are doing all this, there's probably 3 more most intelligent people in the world that could match that.
Yeah.
And everything that we know, I'm using quotation marks for the listeners. Everything that we know could be just a mistake in an equation.
True,
That's
but
very true.
don't you imagine perhaps these days, admittedly not back when Einstein first hypothesized these theories, but don't you imagine perhaps now people may have fact-checked it?
How?
Yeah, computers can be wrong. Because if they haven't found the specific part, and everything is also a simulation, you're not actually going to be able to show anything. So the simulation might come out well, but what if that simulation has an error code, a code that hasn't been put in properly, based on the fact that this was the original theory? So of course it works, because the theory and the computer program have been made at the same time.
I see what you're saying.
Therefore, the glitch that could happen, which means nothing is real, and
Oh wow.
He's going
You
deep.
know.
I once had a manager who speculated that the last 30 years of history are all that there was. And nothing existed past then.
Wow.
well, I'll give you a great example, right? I'm a
Yeah.
psychology teacher,
Okay.
so I realise my science is not great right now, but I don't teach science, so go away. But there was an example of the Piltdown Man, right? So what happened was this archaeologist found some bones of a human skull. Well, not human, a human. I was going to say human variant. I'm just gone real
Human-like?
sci-fi. It was like between
Like a
sort
Neanderthal.
of, yeah, that
Oh,
sort
okay,
of the
okay.
missing link.
So a human, but not like a Homo sapien.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
between like Homo erectus and the one before that, I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm really not good. I'm not showing.
It's
my
okay,
features.
don't worry about it, don't worry about it.
But lots of psychologists, they peer reviewed it. They were not psychologists, scientists were peer reviewing it. They were all loving it. There was documents in the natural history, the Royal Archaeological Society. Everyone was raving about it. And then it came about that this was the missing link to all human life. Turns out it was complete fake. So even though 6 or 7 very big up there archaeologists or scientists said, "Yep, cool, we've fact checked it, everything's good," turns out it was completely fake the whole time.
No way.
Whoa.
And so suddenly a massive part of that history of that science, everyone believed.
That's wrong.
So what you're saying is all science is bullshit, therefore anything is technically possible, so therefore Doctor Who is all correct.
And this is why you are my comment.
Oh, you look defeated.
Did it.
The point I would make there, though, the rebuttal, if you
Okay.
is that if you're going to make a show that is very heavily based on science,
It's
Yes.
not.
but it is, because
fun.
every second word is a scientific word about how the thing works, even if it's rubbish.
For a universe that doesn't really exist.
If it's not based around, if it's projecting that this is our world, and it would be doing that because it's like in Manchester sometimes, right? That's not really the world, sorry. London. Then if you're projecting that as this is a scientific explanation, then it can't be that wrong.
But I don't think at any point does Doctor Who ever say we are scientifically accurate, believe
Yes.
us.
And the Doctor says it quite a lot.
Not to the audience, though.
Yeah, he
to that
doesn't-
established world
Well, I mean,
of
we have-
fiction that we are suspending our belief.
Can I just say we were forced to watch a full hour-long documentary Christmas lecture about this. So I think some people were saying that. To the point
No,
of
it's just
I forced my
fun.
fiance to watch it because I was there,
It's
and
just Brian Cox being a Whovian.
the
and going, "You know what,
yawns,
this will be fun.
the yawns that came out of her mouth
So she didn't enjoy that one then.
I said, "You enjoying it?" And she just started looking at her phone. It was a long hour. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a long hour.
I don't think at any point was this documentary supposed to be saying the science is correct in Doctor Who. It was just seeing the
that was the
parallels
point,
and
right?
No, it wasn't. I think it was seeing the parallels and the fun.
Yeah, it was to speculate on the...
It was great fun. Did you not see how much fun Charles Dance was having when he was spraying those bottles?
Oh,
Yes,
I
and his
loved
flashback to his psychedelic rock concerts.
So,
Yeah.
after all my defence of it, my problem
Go.
Okay, yes, here we go.
was the whole "Are we alone in the universe" thing,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
and then
cool.
going, we can't find signs of life. We can't find signs of life that we know life is. Who's to say that there aren't chemical elements out there that we have never seen before in our lives and will never see again, and life not as we understand life? You know what I mean?
That's because we're humans and we know everything, don't we? So
But like, we're looking for the carbon elements or whatever that
make up us.
makes life.
Yeah.
But why are we so arrogant to think that it's life that, like us?
Yeah.
Why isn't there life out there that is literally like, I don't know, a nitrogen gas or something? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At no point did he talk about that. He just said, we can't find life. Tough. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No. You are absolutely
At no
right.
point
Yes,
does it
the-
say, like...
You just want aliens to be real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because why the fuck is it just us? But like,
We
to
are
be
quite good
arrogant
there.
to think that it's just life like us out
I
there
did like
is ridiculous.
that they were able to see like the light patterns to see if there were life. But yeah, if they're just looking for certain
just looking for
light,
certain
then
life,
then that won't work.
They're just looking for human and, carbon-based life forms, vibes, then...
They might be missing all of them.
It's a non-starter. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
missing everything. And
Very
why the
true.
fuck would people want to... Why would aliens want to come here?
Exactly.
Why the hell do they want to come here?
So,
They probably tried. They probably tried. Jesus was probably an alien and was like, be chill, guys, and we nailed him to a fucking cross. So, if he was an alien, he's not bringing good vibes back.
that is the opposite of being chill, guys. Okay.
That was my main issue, because I didn't understand enough of the science to have enough issue of it. I just got the vibe.
Which is fair, but the problem with the point that you've just made is it does then annoyingly fuel a gentleman on your rights argument about a certain thing that we'll tackle a bit later.
I'm so ready.
But we'll get there. So on the, it's worth noting that this mini-sode is, Brian Cox does say that it was at least recorded in 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think since then we have had space probes go out and find areas of our solar system that could potentially support life. So there is a moon, and I'm getting my facts correct, I hope, called Enceladus, which is one of the moons of Jupiter. And it is a icy planet, but it's been proven through satellite scans that it has a underground ocean.
Ooh.
And
That's very cool.
and as well as that, they've seen explosions come out of this moon out into space, and they've taken readouts of these particles that are being thrown out into space, and they've deduced that these explosions are being caused by something called hydrobonic vents, which scientists speculate is one of the potential places where life started on Earth. They're volcanic vents under the Earth's, just above the Earth's crust, where elements are being forced out into the water and then cool and go out into the ocean. And again, not a scientist, but then change and evolve into life and so on and so on and so on and so on.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
It's not really a potential for human settlement for many reasons. One being that the crust of the ice is like several miles thick.
Oh.
The other one being that Enceladus is about the size of Texas. It's not,
Okay.
in the
Just
grand
think,
scheme
though,
of things, it's not
that's-
huge.
That's a planet in our solar system.
Yes.
It's a moon or whatever in our solar system. And how many? They said there was billions of planets. So
Billions
how,
of
It's
stars,
literally
if there's
infinite.
an option in our solar system, there must be
There has to be, man.
must be so many that can support life of any description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how do we know that there's infinite? Do you know what I mean?
Okay, again, it's been scientifically. What's the
Careful.
I was going to check in.
Strongly evident.
Evidented that the universe is still expanding from the possible theory of the Big Bang.
Mm-hmm.
I have issues with that because
Yes.
Big Bang.
what is it it's expanding into?
Who knows? Not a brick wall.
But something must be there for it to be expanding to.
I think you could literally drive yourself crazy by thinking
Yeah,
about what
Yeah.
I
it's
can't
going
think
into.
about it.
It is so scary when you think about it.
Yeah, it's just like dead space
Oh,
being
no,
filled
no.
by slightly less dead space. But the
But what is dead space and how big is that?
it's
Yeah,
nothing.
exactly.
Remember in Wild Blue Yonder, it's nothing. There's nothing out there. There's no light, no dark, no up,
Well,
no
there
down.
has to be
There's no.
something, otherwise it wouldn't be able to expand into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
No. So,
Oh, I got in for a second.
no, well, yeah, you did because again,
went silent.
I'm an ex-animation student, Donna. I can't.
How does the world work, Alex?
I don't know, King
We're
Ben.
touching on like my existential crisis. It's like
I was about to do like a analogy, but I don't know whether the analogy works. The only thing that I really had was like a rug being rolled out into available space is exactly what's happening with the universe.
what is the available space?
Yeah, what is that?
It's just nothing.
Vacuums.
It's just vacuum without any. It's
Who
like
put that there?
okay, better.
If it's a vacuum, how is something going into it? Because surely you can't.
Okay, it
less
is
of a vacuum.
it is something, but
You
something
just turn it off, don't you?
Okay.
because sometimes
Stop
science
sucking.
sometimes scientists can be slightly numb on descriptive. So perhaps this nothing is something, but we've just given it that designation because it's the easiest way to describe it.
No, that's not true, mate. They just don't know.
I think
They
we're
don't know.
in marbles, like in that end scene at Men in Black.
That's not that scene. Aww.
Or a bit of dust
Or a
on
locker or
what was it?
something.
A bit of dust on a flower. What on
Oh
his-
yeah, what here's a who?
Yeah.
We could be like a little bit of pollen. Or a snowflake like the Grinch.
Yeah.
That is the thing, though, that everything we know.
Could be complete bull.
But it's also on a blackboard in maths, right?
Yes.
Almost everything is an equation, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that difficult to then be very confident in your Brian Coxiness coming out and saying this line represents the whole world. I understand. Being a psychologist, we do models, right? I understand the working memory model is a depiction of how memory works, and you can't just go like cut your head open and find the bits of memory that links to. I get that completely.
Yeah.
But when it's just an equation on a board and a telescope that can see a little bit far, how do we say?
A little bit.
But how do we say that there's an end? Because we will never be able to see if there's
Yeah.
an end. That our best telescope in the world will never get to the point where it can get to the end of.
Yeah.
But
Well,
what? But what if?
Supposedly there isn't an end.
No,
But there has to be an end because it's expanding.
Yeah, but
There
maybe
must be
if this
an end for it to.
if this telescope's taken two readouts of the exact same point of space over a series of years and has seen that there is more each time they take that readout.
Ew.
But how do you get to the end? None of our technology
How
would
do you
get there.
quantify the end?
Yeah.
Is
We're
there a
gonna go
pane of
round and
glass?
round and round in
Yeah, there's no way.
Well,
There's no way.
there's a further terrifying
Oh,
hypothesis
I
with
don't know if
this.
I want to know. Do it.
Is that with the expansion, it's also slowing down.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard
Okay.
that.
And
Yes.
what happens when it stops? Does it then recede? Yeah, does it then recede
Yeah.
Maybe
into?
just get-
Just like that guy with the light that went up and down, he went backwards
Yeah,
and then he went forward again.
In a what you might call a triangular formation.
away.
It's a wave.
Yeah, what if we all just get squashed?
You know, this is what I like about podcasts, is because like I can say all this
Yes.
with no evidence, and I don't actually have to listen to anyone respond to it. I can just say what I
Except
want.
for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but
I might have to look at the angry comments later.
yeah,
but-
that's fine. They can.
Fine. Ben doesn't have to look up.
I mean, as long as Brian Cox isn't listening to this, we're all right.
He'd probably love it. He'd welcome it.
He is our
Yeah.
number one listener.
There we go.
I just feel like with lectures like that,
Yes.
it's all well and good, but no one has had a chance to ask him any questions, so he's just
No.
carried on. So
He
hasn't
is
been able
also
to quantify or
constraint to
explain.
a Doctor Who
Yeah,
episode
yeah.
length. He had a lot to cover.
Yeah,
in
of
that.
course, of
Did you
course.
notice it was also Donna pointed this out to me? That's also shot out of
Out of
sync.
sequence,
Yeah.
yeah. Some of the
I was
drawings.
like, oh
on the
look, that's
chalkboard.
different.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
imagine he tackled the time travel forward and back in the same breath, and then the BBC guys were like, "Well, if he's done this, no one's going to tune in for the Is There Life and
Yeah, and also they needed the little Matt Smith
interludes."
clips.
Yeah.
So they probably filmed that afterwards, right?
I
That's
said
what
to
I'm
him,
assuming.
so.
I said to him, they better not say at the end that this proves time travel bollocks because now it's all changed because the blackboard's changed now. Like they better not say,
yeah,
yes, it's
no,
time
no,
travel.
no.
No, they wouldn't pull that kind of horseshit. They would just give us fact, which is what they did.
Hey, I don't blame him. It was entertaining's a strong word. It wasn't. It happened, and the people there looked like they weren't enjoying it either. But some of them were smiling because they're actors and they can smile well.
Did you notice that bit where he got the heat camera out and he did like the main bit, the audience bit, then he went a little bit up to, I don't know what you call it, the
Oh, yeah,
further
there was, like,
seats.
hardly
There were
anyone.
5 people up there.
Yeah, it was like no one up there.
Well, I'm assuming they're probably crew. Let's be nice to them. They're
Yeah.
probably crew up there.
Probably.
Like he's a great talker, but I
Yeah.
also the amount of times I zoned out from it.
I find him difficult to listen to.
Do you?
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it is.
That's because you're from the south and you didn't really understand much of what he was saying.
Wow, that's rude.
Wow.
No, I'm saying like colloquialisms and the way people talk.
I understood everything, but I did get to the point
Charles Dance.
where I was like counting every time he said "as it were," and I was like, "Oh, that's a few times," but, which isn't a bad thing. But I just think he lost me a little. I don't know. Just I didn't find him particular. I think he's too. I want somebody that's a bit more like animated when they're talking to me, rather than
Okay.
he was just very like chill and stuff. And I'm
He's
like,
good to watch
"Oh."
about 10 o'clock in the.
I think he's good to listen to when I'm falling asleep.
Yeah.
But like, I wanted to be like, I was engaged because I was like, what the fuck? I don't understand any of this. So I was like properly listening.
Yeah.
But I feel like I needed something.
And the
a bit
boss
more
told us to
about
watch it. So.
Yeah, we also got told off. Otherwise, because we're trapped in this little Easter eggy bit.
Yeah, you are trapped by the
Easter egg?
No, it's the
No.
What did I
universe.
say?
Universe.
Universe egg. Yes,
You said
close
Easter
to Easter.
egg.
It's close to Easter.
Which is
Yeah.
expanding.
What, the Easter egg?
No, yeah. It's getting bigger, isn't it? The universe egg.
So we're filling him with. I don't want to say that.
Oh no! Oh no!
That was bad.
We about to fill it with cream.
no.
Eat cream egg.
See, we descended. It didn't take long.
It didn't take long for us to get into our usual filth.
Next T-shirt.
Yes. You're giving me more and more merch to design before I'd even got out the first piece. So we'll move on a little bit because there's another bit of this little get together that I wanted to tackle.
we there?
There's, I think we are. Unless there's any.
Because you haven't talked about your bollocks music.
Oh,
thing
sorry.
yet.
No. Yes, no. Let's do that.
Wait, what?
Let's do that. So, further on the Brian
Oh.
Cox demonstration with the light and the travelling and his time moving faster than everyone else in the audience, I have perceived this. I've experienced this.
Oh.
So I am one of those wankers who likes to listen to the same piece of music just on repeat, and that will be my day. And there have been multiple occasions where I've listened, and I've also, it's worth mentioning that I have been travelling, not via any kind of car or bus or train, but just walking, and I have perceived this music faster than it usually is.
It's bollocks.
Were you running or just walking?
Just
I
while
have
walking
also
fast.
experienced.
No.
I'm really sorry. I've listened to some songs. Sometimes I think this is faster than it normally is.
And do you remember if you were moving?
I have no idea, but I do remember having that experience where I'm like, why is this song faster? Than
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
And
so
you know
sorry.
why?
Because
I've-
your mind is elsewhere. And
No,
you
no, because you're then
focus
focused on it, Donna.
You're not focused on it, and then you're like, oh, that went fast. That's it.
No,
it's
but you're
not even
perceiving
that.
it as
like
it's
literally
happening.
as it's playing. I'm
Yeah.
like, why is this faster than it usually is? And
Yeah.
it's the same recording.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but
Donna
that-
looks like she's going to disown me.
That could well be.
You're lucky I'm over here.
That could well be because what you've just done may have been slower in general. You know, if you're, for example, if you're walking home and you're listening to it,
Yes.
then you're gonna hear it in the way that you're hearing it. But if you've just done something very, very calm, very slow, like me marking books, then after that, things are going to feel faster because you've just done something slower. I don't think it's the movement that makes it faster. You could well have, you do some lovely things for the planet, right? You could be ambling along, doing something very lovely, very calm, and then as soon as you're like, oh, better go, then the music might react more to the feeling that you're having rather than actual time moving.
Fair.
You might just be going, oh, I need to get here. So because you need to get here, it feels faster.
Okay. Yeah.
It's better than triangles. Sorry, waves.
Thank you.
Waves.
Thank you, Ben.
And also, do you just have it on 1.5?
Maybe. I don't know.
A second
It's
is
weird.
still a second. It's still going to go the same speed. You just...
Oh yeah, no, but it feels.
Yeah.
Like
Because you're
you
moving.
can actually be like, oh, I actually feel like it's going faster. I'm like, why is this going faster?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's saying it's going faster because he's moving.
Yeah.
How do we know that that's not
Because a
true?
second is still a second.
Yes, but you're perceiving it at a different speed. So
But,
the
yeah,
music,
I mean-
music is coming from Spotify or wherever as a stationary thing. Here's my science. But you, as a listener to the music, are moving faster than the music is in its stationary position, wherever that is, in the cloud or whatever. Therefore, as you move faster,
Slower.
no, because it's
If you're going faster than the music, then surely it would feel slower than faster.
Thank you, Ben.
I genuinely don't know.
No.
And like
But
I could,
my music doesn't feel faster when you're driving in the car. It doesn't speed up suddenly. It's not...
brains are different and stupid.
Oh, I've done it now.
You've done it now too. Brains are like
wondering where
different
that
and
came
stupid. Like we get deja vu. That's some weird thing in your brain. So this might just be some weird thing in the brain. It might be that Alex has had it while he has been moving, and therefore his brain has correlated it with that.
yes.
It might not be. It might be that it's true. It might be that it's just a coincidence that his brain has gone, woo. I don't know.
A good example of that, we're all in shows, we're all musical people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Watching a show and being in a show, you're watching the same thing, but it is much quicker when you're on stage.
Yes.
True.
But
Okay, that is true.
But that's more you're focused and in the
Yeah.
moment. It's not because you're running around the stage.
But it could
because-
be.
But I don't do running around the stage, as we all know.
You do know
I
that.
stand still and sing and then leave, so I'm not moving. But it does obviously. I think it's the focus that you have.
Yeah,
there,
it's
right?
the focus, isn't it? Because you're not thinking about time, so it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
flows.
Okay.
I think it's so difficult to make any of this like quantifiable because everybody's perceptions are so different.
Yeah.
But this is where we start. And as Brian Cox quite rightly said, there could be a young individual that tunes. Well, they shouldn't be listening to our fucking podcast.
Yeah, no, fucking listen to this.
But there could be a young individual who tunes in to listen to Never Ever Eat Pears, the 1 year anniversary special, and is inspired to take this further and to explore
Yeah,
the
maybe.
ability.
But on that quick note,
That was
Yes.
another
there
I
was
had a problem with.
there was a little girl in there that I saw before.
Was there
And-
actually a little girl? I thought it was a little lad.
No, there was two. There was a
Oh,
girl
was there a
in
little
there.
girl as well?
And when then Matt Smith said that, I was like, that girl did not look enthused whatsoever. So
He did say she had sad eyes.
no, but sad is not bored. That's different. She was sitting there going, "What am I doing here? Why has my dad brought me to this?"
I was
I
having
was-
a fun evening.
Yeah, and I was thinking, if that's the girl he's mentioning, then we're all doomed.
What
Well,
was your other thing?
I didn't realise there was a little girl. I thought,
No,
oh,
I didn't
lad,
know.
I thought, oh, bad writing. But it's fine. If there wasn't actually a
There was
little girl.
two- there was two children.
But they're two kids. I just remember them heavily focusing on that little lad and being like, oh, what?
He had a gormless face, didn't he?
What I enjoyed though is when like you could see the people feel the camera on their face and they just do a little like
Yeah.
what was his name, Dallas something or other.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was sitting there
Yeah.
like this for the majority of it when it was like on big again visuals. He was sitting like really slumped and bored on like the wide shots. And as soon
Yeah.
as it was a close shot on his face, he like did a little smile. And
Yeah.
was like, mate, we caught you, bitch.
But yes, I think it is the time to take the episode slightly elsewhere, where we have a certain topic to tackle. Are you ready?
I'm upset already.
Because you know you're wrong.
I'm not wrong. I might be wrong. Who knows?
Okay.
Go for it, Ben.
Alex, can I just ask, have you done more research since our last conversation?
Yes,
Okay.
I have.
Just so I can prepare myself.
I'm ready to slap it.
I think we should put a no violence clause in
Just gentle.
during the
I mean, I know
episode.
he's tall, but he is not reaching across the room.
Well, no, but I'm also fearful for my fellow host as well. Yes, so there is an episode of Doctor Who that I think you
I'm
enjoyed
incredibly
it.
fond of it.
I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a certain Matt Smith Christmas special.
Indeed.
I can't. I'm actually terrible. I can't off the dome remember the title of the episode.
It's called A Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol.
I feared it might be, but then
Watched it the other day.
It's called A Christmas
it all
Carol.
blends in together. I'm running a Doctor Who rewatch podcast. I have to listen back to all of this. Do you not hear about the headache that I had with the Zygon invasion and inversion?
And inversion.
I heard.
Stupidly dyslexic. And for those who don't know, it is a. It's not a parody. It is a retelling of the beloved Christmas Carol story set on a rather fascinating world that is very steampunky, but above the civilization is a fog cloud, and within the fog cloud are
Fish!
and fish. And he looks
It's
so
not a
angry.
fog cloud. Come on, it's not fog. Fog is made of water. It's not fog, is it? What is it made of?
It's a
What's it made
crystalline.
of,
It's a
Alex?
crystalline. They do say crystalline fog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not water based, is it? Just
But
I just
it's
want to
not
preempt.
Earth, Ben!
On
Can I just
our
preempt?
planet, fog is made of water, but
Yes.
on their planet, fog is not made of water.
Well, then it can't be called fog.
Why?
Why
That's
the
their word for
fuck
it.
not?
That's their word for it.
No, it's not their word for
There's
it.
dirt
though.
and rocks on Mars, Ben! There's dirt and rocks on Mars! There's dirt and rocks on Earth!
You can't
It's the
grow
same
your
word,
you can't grow your
different
pothos on Mars, Ben.
It's made of the same materials, though, isn't it?
Who knows?
It is. Carry on. Just want to make sure really
I'm
clear.
really sorry.
Really clearly that I'm just saying that the fog is called whatever crystalline fog,
Crystalline fog.
but there is no water in it.
That's because these fish don't need
No,
water.
we haven't got there yet. Alex needs to do his preempt. I just want to get to that point where you've established that
Yes.
this fog,
Yes.
as you call it.
Does it say there's no water in it? It's crystalline, but there might be water in it as well.
No, they describe
Did
that it's a crystalline.
Do they
fog.
specifically
I
describe
don't
there
think they
is no
specifically say there is no water in
So
it.
there might
There's
be
water.
water as well.
Somewhere else.
There's going to be water vapor in the air just simply because there is life on that planet. Life perspirates and
That's true.
stuff
Yeah,
evaporates.
and
And
fish can just breathe on air because
But
there's water in it.
these fish, again,
No,
that's their word
Alex,
for
continue.
Okay.
Start, Alex. Go on.
it's not up to me.
Do your preamble.
It's all preamble. It's just until people want to interject.
Now you
but-
need to explain the storyline.
Yes. Okay.
The ridiculous storyline.
Shut up.
Well, I don't think the actual storyline is what you're taking issue with. It's
Yeah,
more...
no, there's bits of it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't think we actually ever.
Oh,
talked
Oh, I
about-
only know your issue about the fish. I don't know. I didn't realise you had issues about the whole episode.
Yeah.
Oh my god. This is even worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Christmas Carol. What can be wrong with that?
Opera.
She's
Oh
a
yeah,
singer.
no, we did talk about this.
We did talk
What's
about
Okay.
wrong with that?
Okay.
Oh
Okay.
my
I
god.
don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So,
Not the opera bit. She's a good singer. Oh, that's not the problem.
but it's more specifically what the opera is used for. I fear maybe the issue. But okay, so Michael Gambon depicts our Scrooge archetype, and he has a.
He does it well. He does
He's
it well.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
He has a system in place where people who are not so well off essentially have to donate members of their family, and he pays out a certain amount for their it is imprisonment, but their storage in these kind of ice coffins.
Cryogenic sort of
Yeah.
esque style.
And he's taken the business from his father, who we assume passed on, and you see him interact with this family who want desperately for this lady that he's got as part of his business to be around for Christmas, and he's just not having it. Meanwhile, also as part of this, we've got a ship that's about to crash land into this planet or this city or whatever, and he doesn't want to lift a finger in order to stop that from happening.
A real Scrooge, you might say.
Yes, you might say that. And essentially, the Doctor is the, I guess, the ghost. He plays all kind of parts.
He's kind of the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future.
Yeah. He comes in and goes. I can't remember the name of this Scrooge. Is it
Kazran.
Kazran. Spends a lot of time with younger Kazran and changes older Kazran's memory of his childhood as he goes, giving him hopefully nicer experiences that will help encourage him to become a slightly nicer individual overall. Okay.
And then save the ship.
Yes.
It's just-
Save the ship and then also just be
Because Amy and
genuine
Rory are on that ship as
Yes.
well, aren't they?
Yeah.
and just be genuinely nicer to people in the town.
You have forgotten something quite important.
Okay.
Are you coming on to that?
Well,
What is it?
enlighten me.
What?
The sharks?
Yeah. No, we're going to that.
I'm just saying that's
Get into the.
this has all been a very lovely story so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a
What's
great.
my preamble?
Oh, yes,
You asked for the preamble.
I did ask. I apologise. I
Yeah.
retract my statement. Go on.
So, but Kalsran, as a young boy, often talks to the Doctor about the day the fish came, which is where the cloud layer has some kind of net over it that his father controls, or the organisation has some kind of control over, and at one point gave out, and a shoal of fish came through, and there was an attack, and he yearns to have a story because everyone else in the town has their own story of when the
Because
fish
he was
came.
sick, wasn't he?
Poorly off
Yeah, he was
school.
poorly off school.
So the Doctor, hearing this, he organises a little kind of fish observing experiment where he attaches his sonic, giving off sonar pulses attached to a piece of string, and they hide away, and Ben's eyes
The
are
fish
burning
comes.
into me. A fish comes. We do see the fish earlier. They've kind of congregated around a street lamp and
Yeah.
things like that, but they're a lot smaller. Now, okay, we will talk about the fish. So the fish in the episode don't necessarily need water as we understand it, like lakes, oceans, whatever, in order to traverse. They are able to do that through the air and through the fog.
Because it's not Earth.
That's it.
But
Am I wrong?
yeah,
A little bit. We'll go on.
It isn't Earth.
I might be a little bit wrong. It's definitely not Earth.
No, but they're humanoids and they're
Yes.
fishonoids. I don't know what the what's the word for fish-like aliens
I think
Fish?
fish-like is enough.
yeah, I think it's just like
with gills.
yeah.
As we established, we see them.
Because there apparently there is a scientific theory out quite recently that says that there's no such thing as fish, but we don't need to tackle that today.
Fish-esque.
That's a whole,
I'm sorry?
That's a whole mess. But
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. That's an off-air thing.
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, so there's larger and smaller species of fish. There's also sharks as well. And as he's set up this experiment, what looks like an angelfish comes along and gives like the Sonic a little kiss, and then the Doctor's observing it, and then a shark comes in and eats the fish and the Sonic.
Yeah.
I feel like there should be
Half the
a
Sonic.
moment of pausing where Ben, you can perhaps lay down some
Go for it, mate.
some interjections, some facts, whatever you've got for us.
Be ready to be kicked.
Right. So when I just need to, because I haven't actually watched it in a long time. I
Yes.
forgot to watch
What the
it.
fuck are we talking about?
My point. I thought this on the day I watched it. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a point where the Doctor or Kasabian, what's his name?
Kazran!
Kazran is in the same atmosphere elements as the fish.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Did they float?
They can fly, yeah.
No, the fish. No, I'm not talking about.
Oh,
the
sorry,
fish.
them. No.
Okay, so their center of their gravity is pretty similar to
That of Earth. Yes.
that of Earth.
Yeah.
Okay, first point. Second point. The fish are in a crystalline
Fog. Yes.
made of crystals.
Very insignificantly small ones, yes, but
Yes.
micro cosmic size crystals, yes.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so we're establishing some things here.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
humans are in the same atmosphere
Yes.
as these fish,
Yes.
Yes.
not just floating around.
This is
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
The fish are in a fog
Yes.
that has, if any, minute levels of water.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We imagine so, yeah.
And by all accounts, as much as we can see and establish,
Yeah.
these fish have gills,
Yeah.
Yeah.
will be at some point something going through those gills to.
It doesn't necessarily
the-
have to be water, though, does it?
Let's let them slip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gills, and something goes through the gills, and oxygen. We assume because the Doctor, yes, we know he's an alien; he could breathe things in,
Yes.
but oxygen is quite an important part of that.
Yeah.
I would say I don't think he could just walk out into any atmosphere, except if it's in the TARDIS's bubble,
Yes.
Yeah.
which
yeah.
is not happening here.
No.
So it's all bullshit, mate. But these fish, well, so I
You're
explained.
applying so much.
I explained the
logic.
premise. I explained the premise to my fiance,
Yeah.
Yes.
who is very lovely.
Flexing.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. She's very beautiful, and
It's all correct.
I explained it, and she said, "Well, you know, maybe." She was trying to be on your side, Alex.
Oh, that's nice. That's
I did make it quite clear that we are now not engaged, but
You said that on
I know I said
recording.
it. She won't listen to this.
We've just got that as a soundbite.
Right, so she said, "Well, maybe those fish like have wings or something." Mm-hmm. The fish don't have any wings.
The
No, they don't.
The fish don't have things. The fish do not have any adornments that would suggest they were able to flap.
That's because
Come on.
they're not Earth fish, Ben.
Yeah.
They are that planet's fish.
Right,
They
And
abide
let's
by
think.
that planet's
Let's
laws.
think about how gravity works, because as Brian Cox said,
Earth's gravity, Ben.
yes, but we have just established that. What's your name? Pete. We've just established. No, listen. We've just established, as the host of this podcast has just said,
Sorry, I hit the mic.
right? He just said it is like that of Earth.
Yes.
Our density, no, because the doctor is there, right? Our density as humans meant that the humans cannot just float around. Okay?
Yeah.
What animals can fly in Earth?
Birds, Ben.
Birds, right? And birds, how do they do that? Do they just swim? What makes a bird fly? Peter, please, as a zoological
Their wings, Ben.
Their
And
wings.
hollow bones.
right, so those two things, did we see that in the fish?
These fish might have hollow bones.
All right, good. So the hollow bones, not a problem. They might be light as a feather, but they do not have wings,
No,
meaning they cannot just
not Earth fish.
swim. Because the point of fish is that the
On Earth.
density of water is more than the density of air. Therefore, they can, with the friction, they can swim through that water. Right? That's the point of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Right?
which is why.
It's bloody air.
But that's why they only swim in the clouds.
Well, no, one went down to hit the Sonic and then
Because
got
of
eaten.
the sonic pulses.
Right, but the cloud, Peter, the cloud is made of crystals. Crystals. Crystals,
Okay.
right,
Okay.
are not like density of water. Because crystals are solid, they are not in a liquid form. Therefore, there will be lots of gaps in the middle. Therefore, no fish can swim through crystals.
Earth fish.
Yes, but we're talking about the gravity of it. Right? I'm talking about the gravity. It doesn't matter if you're saying alien fish,
Okay.
because no animals can just fly. This isn't
On Earth
Superman.
that we know about.
Yeah,
That
but if,
planet that we don't know
if they
about
can do
might
that,
be able to do
if a
it.
fish can do that and swim in exactly the same way, because let's put it like this:
Okay.
those fish look like exactly like our fish. They
Yes.
had all of the amendments, all of the body
Amendments?
shapes, all of the bits of a normal fish. And
Yes. Yes.
appendages.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
There are no
Yes,
extras
they
to
did.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes,
So
cool.
if we are saying that that's because they are not earth fish or they are earth fish, then the humans should be able to float and swim like that.
Did at any point they say they couldn't?
Well, they didn't.
Does that matter?
Well, surely
Just
Doctor would
because
have
I
gone,
can
oh,
swim
hang
doesn't
on,
mean I'm going to go for a swim all the time.
let me just go and fix the problem by jumping into the gas cloud. It's not going to work. Because they probably die without any oxygen because there's two crystals. And they breathe in crystals and it will explode their heart and their lungs and everyone will
You'd
die.
do that if you went for a swim and tried to breathe in the water. You'd die.
What
Yes,
if-
but the
what if
fish and the
their
humans
word-
were in the same area.
What if their word for
The fish
water
came
cloud
down
is
from-
crystal?
Pardon?
Maybe it is water. Maybe that's their
You keep
word.
saying the same word, right? How would they have the same language as us? The point is...
Because the TARDIS translates everything.
Exactly. So it's adding what we already know onto their language. Okay, when you translate Latin, it's not like, oh, that word definitely means that. We've had to assume that that means the same thing. You can't keep saying that just because the word fog, it's not their word is fog, their word's probably right? But that's not part of our lexicon, so you have to add that. Okay? So you got to bring that in. And, Alex, am I right in thinking the fish do come out of that gas layer a few times? Or
They
the-
do. They do.
the
Yes.
crystalline layer?
Because you see, at
So
the
the
beginning,
fish
of-
can just get up and talk to us on land.
Cool.
No, they can't.
Why not?
No, but can they?
Oh no, our fish can't because they're our fish.
I know you keep using this and you think it's clever, but it's not. You're just repeating it. You're making an argument based on one phrase.
I know, because it's funny.
It's funny, but it's just not going to help you because I think I've already won this because all you're doing is laughing. There's no like rebuttal. Alex, you have a rebuttal, don't you?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Go for it.
So it's established in the episode that there is a cloud net that keeps the cloud and the fish at bay. Mm-hmm. But it can be breached, and it is breached within Kazran's story and also when the shark comes through and the little fishies come through.
Got it. So just to establish, they were outside of the net first.
Yes.
Were they in the crystalline layer then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just need to know.
But then the layer was broken and a portion of fog, as fog does, it fills the available space.
Excellent, yeah.
Came through with the fish. Mm-hmm. It's not instant, but the fog comes through and the fish
bled through.
Through. Yeah. There are little areas where the fog has clearly come through and just stayed because it's around that light that you see at the beginning of the episode. So that's my argument for why they're able to exist outside of the main portion of the cloud layer. That there are areas where they have breached through before the fog comes through. There's little areas of cloud that just exist around lights and things like that.
So if a human went near it, it could float. Is that not how it works?
In a way.
Maybe they're too heavy.
In a way, yes. Okay. Actually, yes.
Okay.
And I will get to why that is the case.
Okay. Exciting.
So when the shark comes through and it starts attacking and it does all the stuff that it does, it then falls sick. They say that it's going to die if they're not able to get it back into the cloud layer.
Yeah.
Much like...
it breathes crystals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Much like an earth shark, most species of sharks require...
crystals.
Shut the fuck up. No, most sharks require constant movement and water going over their gills in order to...
Oh, sorry, you just said that quite good.
To breathe.
You said water. Carry on.
Yes, but earth sharks.
Earth sharks, yes.
However, there is at least one known earth species of shark that doesn't require this and also can breathe perfect oxygen. It is an Australian species of shark known as an epilept shark, where it can leave the water. Yes, it's not instant, but it can change its movement of gillage or whatever it does, and it is able to move across the land without being submerged in water and be fine. So assuming that it remains damp, it's fine. It can't just go into the desert and be fine.
Got ya.
Or the suburbs.
Suburbs.
So there are species of aquatic life, even on our world, that can change their gills in order to exist in different environments.
Okay, yeah.
Ooh, like mud skippers.
Yes. So my argument would be that the smaller species of fish that have learnt that exist outside of the cloud layer, or at least in less dense areas of it, have done a similar thing where they don't require such a dense population of crystals. Yes. Okay.
My face hurts.
The gravity point I would counter because there is now. This is probably the bit of the episode that I don't actually like. I like less. The episode overall I love, but it's just because it's a bit cringy. It's where in part of Kazran's like childhood where the Doctor comes every kind of Christmas Eve or whatever to take them out and about.
Yeah.
One of them is that he finds the shark again and somehow wrangles it and gets a sleigh, essentially.
Yeah, no, that is rubbish.
Now, a shark, although quite a powerful creature, isn't moving terribly fast in those shots. We could argue that the gravity in that cloud layer is different than the gravity on the surface of the planet, therefore enabling a sleigh to be almost effortlessly pulled by what is essentially a great white shark. So the gravity in the cloud layer is significantly less than the gravity on the surface of the planet.
But that all depends on whether it can happen in the first place, which is what we're trying to establish.
Well, whether gravity could be lesser higher up.
A story.
But we can't use that argument, can we, Pete? Because...
Okay, it can happen in the first place because it's a different planet that doesn't follow the same rules as Earth.
Yeah, but surely How did we get to that point? How did we get? I can't remember this, so you got to tell me.
Yeah, that's fine.
How did we get to be able to wrangle the shark? Was the shark down where we were as humans?
We never
They-
see
you
that,
never
do
see
we?
that
We just
happen.
See Doctor rock up with the shark.
Yeah, because
Right.
they okay, this is again another problem within the episode, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They use one of the people capsules in order to transport the shark back up into the cloud layer within the TARDIS and release it back into the clouds.
They freeze it.
The problem, obviously, with that being that this is a person casket and won't cater for pectoral fins, a dorsal fin, and then the general
They just fold them.
dimension of a shark. But if we, I know you don't like it, but if we kind of put that to the side just for a minute.
That we don't. If I'm here today to argue this point, we can't
Okay.
just put quite an important part just to the side, because that suggests to me that
Let's-
my argument is correct.
Maybe,
And you
So,
can't
in
answer
this
that.
regard, then that human box was for
Yeah.
a very big person, and he fit in.
or
Why was he down there in the first place?
well, he came down when the Doctor set up that little.
The little tunnel.
At the same place where humans are not floating.
Yes,
So therefore, the shark was still floating.
yes.
So does that not go against what you just said?
What if these species of shark or fish have evolved to have significantly less dense bones?
But they still can't float.
Which would be supported in my argument because it apparently takes the Doctor, a woman who's been frozen and probably hasn't eaten and is probably quite weak, and a child in order to lift a fully grown great white shark into a box.
Oh, that's a good point.
That is a good point, and I came up with that on the fly.
Yeah.
There you go.
So it might be a little lighter,
Yeah, yeah.
but on that note, could those people that you said can put them in a box
Yeah.
pick up Michael Gambon?
Why do they need to pick up Michael Campbell?
Because Michael Gambon is a human.
Yes, correct.
And so if they could do that, then why is Michael Gambon not floating?
Because he has the normal bone density of a human.
Yes, but
Yeah.
in terms of the bone density, that equates to mass, right? Equates to weight there.
Yeah.
So if they can pick up Michael Gambon and they can pick up the shark,
Why are they picking up Michael Gambon?
no, because you're saying that
Yeah.
the reason we can guess or the reason we can infer
Yes.
that the shark has lower bone density
Yeah.
is that a girl, a child, and
The Doctor.
the doctor can pick it up.
Yeah,
Could a girl, a child, and a doctor pick up a human?
probably.
Yeah.
So why is the human not floating? Because if you're saying the same thing and they're holding with the same sort of level of picking it up, then that's the same weight and the same weight on both. Therefore, if you're saying the shark can still float at that area, so should a human.
I
Okay,
feel like you might have.
but admittedly, we don't see the picking up of the shark, so we're having to.
You just told me they show. You just said that.
We don't see it. We just know that it
they have
happened.
box.
It has to have happened.
Yeah.
But it could be as light as almost like a feather.
Is a shark.
Probably a lot. Fully grown great white shark's got
Yeah,
to be
they
a
have
lot.
to. They have to do a big winch, don't they, to pick it up?
Yeah, it's got to be a lot heavier than a fully grown man.
Look it up. Google it.
So we can argue, hopefully, that the shark is not weightless, but is significantly less dense and heavy than.
Jesus Christ.
But on that note, it would then not be able to pull a sleigh. Because even if the gravity is less there, the push it's not pushing down, it's pushing forward.
Right.
Therefore, it would still need some level of
But could we
muscle, and muscle is the heavy bit,
Okay.
to get that sleigh going.
Can we not argue that? Okay, it would have. It
The
would,
largest great white shark female. 2,268 kilograms.
Wow.
there you go.
They're
There we-
fucking big.
There you go.
Because I imagine that a lot of that, a little bit of. Admittedly, I don't know that much about great whites, but what I do know.
No, do I?
You do now.
Just a little bit more.
What I do know is that they're commonly misconstrued as one of the most effective hunters. They're really not.
No, they're shit.
And the way that they hunt, at least seals, is the way that is depicted in the Jaws poster, where they'll come at it from underneath and slam into it, and then kind of grab it from there, and then breach out the water and almost fly.
That's called falling with style.
I know.
Nice.
I'm not going to try and wrangle that at you, but and they must have a great amount of food, the ability to store food resources because they don't eat all that much. I don't know.
Okay, where's this going?
I'm not sure.
I don't think you know where it's going.
I did have a point, but I was so happy that I've been able to talk about sharks. Yeah, so a shark, even in this world, would need to have a certain amount of fat or whatever it needs in order to store that kind of food and ability to still function if it's not eating as frequently as these little fish are or whatever.
Like a camel.
Yeah.
That can't fly either.
No, because that would be horrific.
Yeah.
No one wants to see that.
Flying camel.
But the
Time is moving slower, isn't it? Yeah,
what if these fish have a type of gas that's in them that's almost like helium, a slightly less strong gas like that, but a floating gas that allows them to float, and therefore they can maintain altitude, but can also use their little flippers to kick through the crystalline fog, which is dense, perhaps not as dense as water, but is dense. They are knocking against something, much like if we had the ability to move our hands at a certain speed, we'd be able to fly and things like that, because we're pushing against air, which is denser than nothing.
We're waiting on you, Alex. Come on.
Yeah, so
helium wedge.
that's my hypothesis, that these fish have less dense bones than standard fish do in humans, that they have a certain type of gas within them that allows them to maintain altitude.
Okay.
Like that.
And when the shark was on the floor,
Yes.
what happened to the helium?
Poorly.
Yeah.
Where did the helium go if the shark was on the
She
floor?
burped it all out.
Wait, how do they produce helium?
I don't know.
Can you produce helium?
Probably not.
The same way we produce carbon dioxide when we breathe out.
Oh, is that how helium works?
Yeah, Ben.
I said it was a gas. I said it was a gas that was similar to helium within its floating properties. That's where the similarities start and end.
Within the rules of that own world.
Yes.
Okay, so surely then the fish are always floating up.
If not maintaining a very ever so gradual rise.
And then
But they can't
fart it
because
all out.
they're in a net. Aren't
Yeah,
they?
but then they'd all be in the net, but they've been going near the lights, swimming near the lights and stuff, and coming down to the bottom
They're
layer.
using their little fins.
So that, but then they would also
They're fighting
always be
against
constantly
it.
fighting up.
Yeah, but they might be, but not like a
Maybe
magnet.
And from what I know of helium, it will one balloon of helium will lift a balloon.
I
What?
think
End
we're
of.
focusing on the fact that it's probably not actually helium. It's a helium-esque.
Yeah, it's
That
a
they can
gas.
create.
Gas.
Possibly.
Yeah, that's.
Well, this comes back to the whole science thing. If this
Comes back to the whole. It's a story.
yes, but if you can't explain what the gas is,
Why do we need to explain what the gas is? Let's just not know. Let's enjoy the not knowingness.
so you want to be in a world where we can just believe that sharks can do what they want.
Why the fuck not? That sounds nice.
No, it doesn't.
Why doesn't it sound nice?
Because
It sounds
sharks could then just come into our houses and eat us.
Okay,
No,
first of all,
that's
misconstrusion on sharks straight out the bat.
I've been watching Shark Week. No, I get it. It's a story, but I think if you're gonna, especially with that storyline, if you are going to make it trying so hard to make it scientific,
But they're not in this.
they
one.
are sort of.
No.
They talk
it's
about
not-
the crystalline layer, and they talk about this and that and how it all works.
Because it's fun. They don't talk about how it works. They literally just say it's a crystalline layer of fog stuff that the sharks can swim through.
But
And
they
it's
can't.
pretty,
It's
and
fun.
it's beautiful, and it's sweet.
Well, I don't get how opera can fix all of it anyway.
Okay,
right?
well, we'll get to.
Resonating of
yeah.
the crystals.
Yeah, but how does that make you calm? Hang on. For the listener, I'm just going to rock Pete back and forth very quickly for ages and just see if he feels really calm. feeling calm, Pete?
Yeah.
Feeling calm? Yeah.
Okay, so
I just don't think it's appropriate.
Why not? It's pretty. Again, it's a Christmas story. It's supposed to be magical and lovely and pretty.
but we
She
can
sings a
tackle the
Christmas
science
vibe.
of this.
This
least-
whole episode is about science.
Yeah, and I'd say out of all the elements we've
Science,
covered,
Daddy.
this particular element is probably the most easy to tackle.
Oh, cool. Go for it.
So it has been scientifically shown
Good. Well done. You're learning.
that that aquatic life do respond to different music and different sounds. Like obviously, if anyone who's seen Free Willy or Finding Nemo, both of those are huge advocates for don't bang on the glass because the sound waves travel through the water.
Yeah. And don't like make a whole crystalline layer shake because that will cut through the fish.
No, but that's not what they're saying in the episode. They're saying that the opera that this lady is producing is at a frequency that resonates with the crystalline layer, which causes the fish to calm down.
Yeah. What does resonate mean?
It vibrates off of it.
Therefore.
It doesn't vibrate the fish, it vibrates the crystal.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Therefore, movement of the crystals that they swim in.
Yeah.
Therefore, danger.
Yeah, but it doesn't come at it like a train. It doesn't like.
Why danger?
It doesn't.
Because if it's moving, like imagine if you're in a pool,
Yeah.
right, and they vibrate the pool so much that suddenly
It becomes a jacuzzi, and
You
everybody
can't-
loves relaxing in a jacuzzi.
do they? I hate
Good point.
jacuzzis.
I hate relaxing in a jacuzzi.
I hate
I'm just saying.
jacuzzis. They're the
People
worst.
use the vibrations of the jacuzzi in which to relax.
Yeah, but what if it's to a point where you you see waves and how fish just can't always
Which is
go
why
with the
her
flow?
voice resonates perfect.
Yeah. This.
If somebody else started, if you or I probably started singing at it, the fish would probably be like, ah, fuck! But
Speak
because
for
of
yourself.
her voice,
Speak for yourself.
because of her voice, it tunes it nice.
Yeah.
Because it's Catherine Jenkins and she can sing pretty, so they
Yes.
And we know that sharks, especially, they hunt and move around using. It's not. It's not
underwater
echolocation, it's-
It's like
it's-
sonar.
Yeah, it's like sonar, but it's more around electricity.
yeah.
I
So
see.
that-
they use water for that, right?
Well, they're in,
I'm just asking.
the sharks are in the water.
In the water.
Yeah,
Yeah, water.
yeah.
The thing that they breathe.
For Earth sharks.
The thing that
For
they
this
breathe
planet sharks.
oxygen through, there's
Yeah.
oxygen within the water that they are breathing.
Because
much
it's a
like-
liquid and then the oxygen is a gas that comes out of the liquid.
Much like there is oxygen within the
Crystal.
crystalline
Crystals?
fog.
Oxygen in the crystals.
No, the crystals. Much
Are there little people in the gills that every time a crystal goes in, they just like little pop it open, like the dwarfs from Snow White, ting ting ting, and then a little bit of oxygen comes out, and then they get rid of the
It's
crystal.
not-
No, but we
just
know that
crystals,
gills
though.
can
Crystals
filter things
mixed
out that
with
aren't
oxygen.
water.
Yeah.
What? Say again? Oh.
We know that there are. Well, I'm pretty sure all aquatic life, if they rely on gills, can filter things. Obviously, to a certain extent, they can't like filter a boat out of their gills. But
Yeah, and they can't filter like solid objects or anything.
Yep, some can.
Yeah, if
There's-
there's
many species.
debris gets in, they can.
Right,
Some of
and
them.
where does that go? Does that go into their lungs and
No,
give them
it goes back
oxygen?
out.
No, they
They
filter
filter out
out.
of the lungs.
The fish don't
Out of the
eat
lungs.
the crystals,
Sorry, out of
Ben.
gills.
They.
It goes. The crystals have. If you're saying the crystals have oxygen in them,
Yeah.
No.
No.
As in the actual
In the
crystals,
layer.
in the makeup of the crystalline cloud, there are molecules of oxygen, molecules of water, molecules of the crystals, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
okay.
So not in the actual physical crystal atom.
Yeah. The crystals are just part of the biological makeup of this cloud.
But there is no like water in there.
Like there's salt in water.
Not
Like
within-
there's salt
not-
in seawater. There's oxygen in those
Yeah, but
crystals.
there's quite a lot of salt in seawater.
There might be quite a lot of oxygen in the crystal there.
But then I thought the point of gills is that gills extract the oxygen from the water.
Yeah.
So having oxygen in the air is not going to make a difference because they can't do that with the gills. The gills aren't designed like that.
It is because if we're going back to the epilept shark is able to take oxygen from our atmosphere, but as well as that can take it from the water like any other fish.
Yeah.
These sharks and these fish in this episode can do a similar thing in the gas layer where they are separating the oxygen that's in that gas layer, much like there's oxygen in water,
Yeah.
from the crystals and from whatever other bullshit's floating around up there.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
Yeah, but how do they fly though?
We've just done that!
With their little helium balloons.
The thing is, we can explain little bits of each bit, right? But if we're calling them fish,
Which we are.
which we are,
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
and if we're not calling them cascabogos, right? Because we're saying these are fish,
Yes.
they're flowing through,
Yeah.
then they can't fly in undense areas like
They
Crystals.
can, but they rely on the fog in order to breathe.
The fog is not fog, the fog is crystals.
No, the crystals is part of the fog.
it's not a fog.
It is a fog.
A fog doesn't allow for you to just float in it. It's not dense enough.
Yes, but that's not what we're saying. We're saying that there's helium gas and lower bone.
Yeah, you're saying there's helium gas in them, right? But so when they die, what happens to the helium gas?
They just float away.
Right, so is that how we're saying that?
Yes,
when
because
a fish
there's not
dies,
just dead fish all over the fucking street.
Well, we don't know, actually. We don't know that.
We don't know that.
And when
no.
the shark was ill, it didn't float.
We didn't see it for long enough to see it float away. This is why I'm saying that...
No, we saw it on the ground, though,
Because
didn't
we
we?
didn't see it dead, we saw it sick.
We also saw
Right, well, even worse then. Even worse, that the shark is on the floor, still alive, so the helium should be pulling it up.
Yes, but...
Unless there's something wrong with his helium belly.
Correct me if I'm wrong, don't they put a blanket over it?
Yes.
Well, the blanket's not gonna.
But if the helium, like gas, is not quite as ferocious or
Did they do it as
concentrated-
soon as it fell?
I don't think you see it. You just see it on the floor.
Yeah, you just see it
Right,
on
so
the
you
floor.
see it on the floor. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
probably
yeah.
been there for a long time.
No,
If
it's
not
not
more
been-
than a
it's
second.
not
Well, the
been-
kid's
More-
crouching with it, so if it does float, he's probably got his little hands on it.
Oh, that is so. That is so rubbish.
But we know with some fish, when they're poorly, they will either sink or float, depending on what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
If there's something wrong with their weird little buoyancy bubble,
Yeah, if
in
they've
their
got
bellies,
swim...
they'll-
Yeah, and how long did it take
Swim
to
bladder.
fix that? Then suddenly it's pulling a sleigh.
Years.
I think
was-
they say putting it in the stasis thing helps, but they need to get it back to the cloud layer because it needs the density of much like if a shark was on land in our real world.
Yeah.
It would need to be taken back to the water and floated correctly in order to survive.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what they do.
Because the weird little pocket of crystallines that he brought down was just for fish, not for a shark.
Yeah.
So it wasn't enough to keep that shark okay. So they-
Temporarily, much like if you were to drag a great white out onto the beach, it would thrash around for a little bit. It wouldn't be like an insta kill, but it would eventually die.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then between releasing the shark back up and it pulling a sleigh, years have gone by.
Is it?
Yeah.
Actually is.
Because little baby Kazran is who sends him out, and then it's old man Kazran that.
So are we saying at the end of this is that in order for this to work
Yes.
as an episode,
Yes.
Right.
you need to make complete shit up, such as helium buoyancy bubbles,
No.
and the fact that they have low bone density, so that's why humans aren't also floating in this gravity area. You have to explain all of this in order to make this a viable storyline for
Only
someone
to
like
you.
me.
We were
Only to
happy
you.
without
Everybody
it.
else is happy without it.
I don't think I'm the only one.
I think you might be.
I honestly don't think I'm the only one.
Arguably, within the context of the episode, the sharks and the fish and the environment that they exist in is a very almost insignificant
It's like a
part of the
sub-
episode.
sub-
It's
plot.
just a substance.
Well,
part.
then don't bring it in. Like, why does it have to be so silly? Why does
Because
it?
it's an
It's a
entertainment
lovely,
show.
magical story. I don't.
But it could have been about anything else, right? If you're talking about this Christmas Carol, and they think, right, we want to do a Christmas Carol episode, but we also want to bring a bit of sci-fi in.
Yeah.
What in them, like, why have they gone for sharks and opera and cryogenics and a crystallized cloud? Why didn't they go for something like simple, like he was storing the food and therefore no one was eating and therefore you can fix all that problems? Why did they have to bring bloody sharks into it?
Because it's Doctor Who.
Sci-fi.
Because it's cute.
It's not
lovely.
cute. First of all, fish are not cute, and don't ever say that again. Okay? They are the least cute.
Okay. As a former aquarist, I do take slight offence.
It's fine. You can take as much offence as you want. I'm telling you the absolute truth here.
Because it's a nice story.
Yeah.
It's not.
Why isn't it nice?
Because they have to put a shark in a cryogenic tube, put it onto, then pull a sleigh. All
Yeah,
for the
It's
fact,
lovely.
you know, if they're going to do Christmas
Fucking
Carol.
reindeers can't fly, but everybody accepts
Well, I
that
don't
Santa
agree with-
Claus pulls it.
Well, who
in his
accepts
back.
that?
It's like every
Who
child
are-
in the world.
Child, that gets to a point,
Because
doesn't
it's
it?
a fucking kids show, Ben.
Doctor Who. Doctor Who is now not for kids. I honestly don't believe that there's that many kids watching it of an age of like 10 or 11. I think we have grown up. Our
Yeah.
generation have grown up with Doctor Who, so
Fair.
adults.
Oh yeah, no, it is much more.
Adults are watching
but essentially at its
But when
heart,
that episode was
it is a lovely
televised, it
kids'
was
film.
definitely far more for kids.
No, I was like 16.
Yeah, perhaps you were, but
That's probably why you don't like it so much.
but when the I
Because
think
it's grumpy.
Yeah, you're grumpy at that point when you watched it.
there are two main eras of Doctor Who within the reboot stuff. in the early days that I think is genuinely accepted. You've got the David Tennant era where most people jumped on if it was not at the back end of Eccleston.
Yeah.
And then you've got the secondary era, the Moffat era, the 11th Doctor era, where a lot of kids and young people jumped on. Then started their Doctor Who exposure from that.
Okay,
but
yeah.
the majority of them were children.
Yeah, they probably didn't think that was a good episode either, to be
They
honest.
probably didn't think so hard about it
Yeah.
because you're hoping that it's been written by like biologists and scientists, but it's been written by a science fiction loving nerd. So it's
Like I said, I'll go back to my point, which was right at the beginning.
Yes.
Is that if you're going to bring in something like this that is very based upon the fact that we have to believe it, then it has to be based on the science that we sort of understand and know.
if it was set on Earth, I would agree with you.
Yes, but
Yes.
we
It's
have
not set on Earth.
But then what should have happened is all of the humans should have not been human-esque. All the fish should have not been fish-esque and shark-esque. They should have made it so different that if Michael Gambon was green with antennae, this would not be a conversation because I'd be like, well, I don't know how that alien works, so therefore I'm going to
So
do it. If the shark had 6 gills, 6 fins, had a like smiley, like the whale in there's a whale that carries a
Yeah.
cruise ship,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
At no point did I think, whales don't work like that. They made it very specifically look like shark, fish, and humans.
Okay.
If you're going to do that,
Do you have a
then it's
problem
gonna
with Davros looking completely human before he started?
I just have a problem with Daleks because they're bins on wheels.
Okay, but Davros as a
How did they
character-
make that thing when they just got tentacly arms? Like, how did he do that?
I'm not talking about that, Ben.
But we will get to that because there is an answer to
I'm talking
that.
about the fact that Davros is an alien,
Yeah.
but he looks human.
He's a Carlo.
Yeah, but he doesn't look that human.
He doesn't
does.
look at
When
it,
he,
yeah.
when he first starts, he is
Yeah,
human.
he is just human.
They are just
He's
human.
an actual human.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Right, so then...
So do you have a problem with that too?
But he's an actual human.
No, he's not a human,
But he looks
but
He's
he
human.
looks
humanoid.
like a human. He looks,
Yeah.
And then he...
I could be Davros right
Yeah,
now.
but does he
Yeah.
float? so then now...
But Davros doesn't live on this
But
planet.
he
Ben.
doesn't. But that's the thing. Like, would you have a problem with every other like humanoid
Yeah.
alien
If they weren't... what?
in another story setting?
Yeah, in the other story settings, but tell me another story setting that is so out there that I would go, oh yeah, I can't believe that because that's a human.
The story where Davros is a person and is getting grabbed by literal mines made of hands,
Mines?
landmines. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
He is a humanoid.
Yeah, but
Has
then...
hands grabbing him like a mine.
And it
so
explodes.
I just don't.
And then it
but-
explodes. And then they rebuild him.
No. Don't worry about that part. I just mean that you're having a problem with the fact that Michael Gambon looks like a human, and it would make more sense if he looked like an alien.
Yeah.
So do you want every single different planet to look completely different and alien?
Yes. Because we go back to that point of life on Earth, and you're saying, well, why do we always look for carbon-based?
Yeah, but
Right.
I'm sure
So-
that there are other humanoid people out there.
Well, you can't... I don't think you can have a humanoid person if they're not made of carbon.
Why not?
Because they wouldn't look like this. They said nitrous glass
It
cloud.
could be.
Yeah, but yes, but the point is, if we look like this,
Yeah.
the evolution has happened. Evolution is luck. The whole point of evolution is that nothing is actually designed.
Yeah.
It is all just
random chance.
Random chance.
Yeah.
So it
based off
could have
variables.
happened exactly the same
But
somewhere else.
But every single planet he goes to has human-looking people on it.
Cost.
Cost. Well, it goes back to the point of the story not being good enough. Because if they're going to do these storylines,
But my point is that you didn't seem to have much of a problem with all
because
of
they
the
weren't
other
floating
storylines.
in a bloody cloud made of crystals. Every other one doesn't just float around.
No, but
Every
they
other
have
story-
different other. They have other like.
Give me an example.
I'm trying, but I'm frightened now.
Give me an example of another episode where someone who looks human does
Okay.
something like is moving in a way or doing something different than a human would do. Silence.
End of the world.
Well, yeah, because you're just throwing this at us, Ben. Give us a sign.
Because you're using it as an argument, so I'm rebutting.
End of the
Yeah,
end of the
no,
world.
just-
Eccleston's second episode,
Yeah.
where we get the observation platform with Earth being blown up by the sun,
Yeah.
and we get different humanoids come on. We get
like a skin, Cassandra.
yeah, we're not going to talk about Cassandra because she
Oh,
is human. She that was a medical transformation. That wasn't biological. She didn't always look.
Yeah,
like
she
that.
couldn't exist because she has no like. organs anywhere.
She does. She's got a brain that's in a tube that's underneath her skin rack. And
But you can't see that. That's not shown.
yes, you can. It's on
Is
show.
the brain there?
Yeah.
All right, touche. Carry on.
Yeah. But there is. I can't. Is it Jabe, the tree?
Yeah,
people?
the tree people.
Perfectly humanoid, but don't quite.
No,
move.
she's a tree person. That's not humanoid.
She
looks like a tree.
specifically that looks like a human
Yeah.
being.
Like if they're green and they've got they've got tree bits coming out of it, that's what I'm saying. Then I would go, I don't know how you work. Therefore, I can believe this story because I don't know how you work.
So why can't you just say, I don't know how this alien fish works. I will just believe
Because it
the
looks
story.
exactly like a normal fish. So I know how fish work.
You know how Earth fish work, but not that planet's.
Because there would not be, Peter, a fish that looks exactly like our fish.
Why not?
Because I've just told you, evolution is luck. No, you're not
So
going
why
to get.
can't it luckily happen somewhere else?
It could once, but every single place they go to would have. In Doctor Who, has humanoid people. Almost every single episode has humanoid people.
Which they do kind of cover because he goes on the fact about
goes
like
to
the
Mars,
human race has expanded and gone everywhere.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
then they're humans, aren't they?
I think I can find a way to kind of conclude this.
You're gonna have to because I'm gonna be angry.
Because I feel like Ben and Pete may actually fall out.
No, I'm just trying to understand.
But so yes, unfortunately, my ending to this
Love you, bro.
to this argument may actually prove part of Ben's argument.
Alex, no!
You don't say prove.
Yeah,
To be fair, Alex, you don't say proof.
Yeah, you didn't catch him out on that one.
They aid in supporting Ben's thesis.
Damn it,
So
man.
so Doctor Who at its core, if we don't look at it as a universe, as a property, is something that is made for many different reasons. I mean, Pete, you and I have tackled certain things where they're like talking about things like war and things like that. Yeah. There is a real agenda to make the series relatable and to make it impactful and to make it important to younger people growing up and to tackle hard topics and things like that. Regrettably, people are it's much easier for the average individual to emphasize and to relate and to be captivated by a creature or an individual that looks like something they are familiar with, if that is the crux of the story.
Okay.
That is why we've never had, at least not a long-standing one, an alien companion within the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Because as much as I'd love to see it, and there's countless species that I'd love to see him knock around with a hat or something like that, but it just wouldn't be. For the vast majority, it wouldn't be a compelling story. So for the purpose of that, they had to make everyone in that town, especially a Christmas town, because you get the warmth from Christmas, from family and familiar things and things like that. You're not gonna. I think that's why things like Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker did so badly, apart from all the other issues. And when we see a festival with all these aliens and like laughing children and stuff, they try their damnedest. But I reckon if they were all humanoids, we'd care a lot more about them than we would these creatures that we don't associate with. And that's also why so many of the creatures within Doctor Who that are scary are humanoid. So things like the Weeping Angels, the ghosts, and by extension the Cybermen and things like that, they're humanoid. They're things that we relate to and otherwise should emphasize and trust with, but are coming at us in a sinister way. So as Doctor Who as a property, that's probably the reason why things like this episode are done the way that they are done, because we would find it more difficult to be like, this is a fun Christmas story that we relate to and feel warmth with, if they were all Vinvoci or different creatures like that.
Yeah.
That is the reason probably why this episode looks the way that it does, and why Kalsran isn't a different colour outside of our normal skin tones or things like that.
So what about the fish, though?
Twofold reason.
Everyone loves a fish.
Twofold reason. Apart from Ben, apparently. Twofold reason, again, from my original point about familiarity, because they are, as much as they're not a huge
focus of the episode. They are a focus of the episode. You see them more than once. Unlike the star whale in The Beast Below, where you don't see it in its full shot until the very, very end.
Yeah.
By which point the episode's virtually over and it's like, that's just a depiction of this space whale and that's that. These fish play a huge part within the episode comparatively to that.
Yeah.
So as they're such a large part of it, they need, again, that familiarity. These are fish. That's a cute little fish. That's a big shark.
Cute little fish, do you hear that?
For the fish lovers out there. And the second one is unfortunately a budget thing because it's a BBC property. They probably had tons of assets from various Blue Planet-esque documentaries where they could just click and drag a shark PNG into something and then
Yeah.
make that.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier for them to use those assets at hand than to create a whole raft of different alien-looking aquatic but not aquatic creatures.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is shortcuts.
But Doctor Who has always taken shortcuts.
Always been shortcuts.
I mean, for example, the
Things that made it
greatest
fucking
example of this, and I'm surprised we've never really tackled it. I mean, I know we haven't got to the episodes to do so, but the most egregious tackling of cutting corners would be a certain famous elevator shot. I don't know if you know about this, Pete.
Which one are we chatting?
So in very early Doctor Who, when I say an early Doctor Who, early reboot, there is an elevator shot that we see for the first time in the first ever episode, Rose,
Yeah.
where it's on the exterior of the elevator and it's going down and you see like the top of the elevator and it's got the warning symbols and stuff on it. It is used pretty much every single time there is then an elevator shot, regardless of the planet or anywhere. I think the most egregious one is on New Earth.
Oh, is it?
It's the same one, and it's like they're meant to be this futuristic hospital, and then you see this very 2000s elevator descend.
Never noticed
I've noticed that.
That's amazing.
That's brilliant.
And yeah, it's just the Doctor Who, because, and I think that's why I've always been quite fearful of where Doctor Who's going in the direction that it is now with the new budget and things like that. It loses that, and perhaps it's not something that you particularly enjoy, Ben. For me, the grubbiness and low budget look of it.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that.
It's part of the charm.
I don't mind that. I don't mind the charm. It's just this one episode. Everything else is fine. Everything else is
I
absolutely
love
fine.
that you've just locked onto it. It's great.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It's that element of like the difference between finding familiarity in it
Yeah.
Yes.
and suspending disbelief, because
Yeah.
I couldn't in that one.
Okay. That's
In most of the other ones, I can go, yeah, it's a story, all good,
Yeah.
life is good. But I couldn't do it in that one because I just,
So
it's almost like an uncanny valley. Like, here is a fish. I know what a fish looks like. I know what a shark looks like. I know what a human looks like.
Yeah.
They are doing things on a human-esque planet that looks human, that is, by all means, pretty much a human story. And fish are floating in the air in crystals. So that bit, when they go to a completely different planet and there's like fire demons or there's a spider god, great, because I know that they have. It's, for me, I think that episode used science too much.
Okay.
There was an element of, right, I'm going to put some science into this. I find that actually in some of the Doctor Who's where they really rely on science. I think it's Jodie Whittaker's character that has to explain everything to the point where I just think Chris Chibnall's gone, right, we need to make this believable, so let me just tell her to like say every single part of how this works. I don't enjoy that, because then I go, well, that's wrong. That's wrong.
You'd
They've
far
done that
prefer
wrong.
it if it didn't do that.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you say that, you go, okay, cool. I don't care anymore, because
Or if it's a 10th Doctor, you wait for him to go, this annoying little science noise. And then you're like, oh, he knows what's going on, so it must be.
yeah. So
it
if
must be
they
fact.
bring science in,
Yeah.
then I expect them to bring it in hard, and bring
Okay.
it in truthfully.
Fair.
Okay.
And that's sort of, that's the whole thing, is that if you're going to do science, do science. If you're going to do the fiction part, do the fiction part.
Yeah.
Don't try
I'm not-
to explain something within it.
I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna say because you will just kill me.
Go on then.
It's not Earth science that they're asking you to believe. They're asking you to believe this planet's science. That is literally. You're very hung up on them on believing.
Do you know why?
The
Do you know why,
science,
Peter?
but
Because
it's-
science is supposed to be universal, and science shouldn't change from planet to planet. That's not how science works.
It's not okay. I'm not gonna say it.
But it's not. If science is science.
It's not how Earth.
But to risk taking us back into the to the black hole of this conversation.
Black hole.
I just don't think we're ever going to agree on this.
No. I don't.
And that's okay because
of
we
course
can be
it is.
different.
Of course we can.
We can. You can be wrong and I can be right. It's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, that is fair enough. And
I do understand you, like, because
Yes.
there are certain movies that I watch where I'm just thinking, like, why am I supposed to believe this when you've established a working universe
Yeah.
and environment? If I'm watching a movie that is set in America or whatever,
Yeah.
I know that what those rules are, and if they branch out of those without it being a sci-fi or a fantasy element, if I'm watching a whole stone cold drama and there's something that doesn't quite work, then I
Yeah.
get really
Yeah.
cross.
Yeah.
Of course.
But
If they don't ever bring that in the first place, you're not going to have to do that.
yeah.
Right? Like you get those mistakes. Game of Thrones, there was a Starbucks cup.
Yeah.
Like my established worldview of this place is that it's oldie worldy, it's set
Yeah.
in da-da-da,
Yeah.
right? I know there's dragons and stuff. That stood out. So if you do stuff like that in Doctor Who and you rely heavily on this is how this world works, if
Yeah.
it doesn't work in my head, it doesn't work. I'd rather they just went, oh, it's magic fish. Do you see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's magic fish. Okay, cool, magic fish.
Cool.
End of story.
Let's pretend it's magic fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I don't think I like the Brian Cox video, because I was like, well, don't try to prove it, because we can't prove anything, so we might as well not try.
Oh no, we should always try.
No.
no, I think that was the crux of what he was saying. Like,
think we should
go
always
out there
try.
and try.
Well, at
But
the
if
end, he
you're
said
wrong,
he
then
doesn't
you've
know,
learned
does
something
he?
else.
I mean, if you're willing to be spaghettified, then
Yeah, that's true. But we're not, so.
I am
well,
very
yeah, us as a collective may not be, but there may, and we're not advocating for people to go out there and get spaghettified. But if you're fascinated by the way that the universe works, you should definitely try it. Perhaps not on that level, but make small steps
Yeah.
that could potentially lead to larger discoveries.
Yeah, like how fish can fly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to find you some flying fish.
Well, there are flying fish.
There are flying
guess what
fish.
they have?
They got wings.
They got wings.
They do, yeah. So I'm thinking we'll round off this episode of the podcast. I've got a few kind of Doctor Who themed questions that I think we could all probably tackle. They're not episode specific, just to kind of get a little grasp of where we all stand as Doctor Who
We
fans.
can't do our regular question of the week.
No.
I suppose we can't because
We can't,
I mean, if we, you could definitely target me with that with my music theory.
So, have
But
you
the-
heard? We do a daft cunt of the week every week
Yeah.
for an episode, but we can't do that for this one, I don't think.
No,
Unless Ben ideals the shark as the daft cunt.
I don't think it's the shark's fault. I don't think that.
The shark is innocent in this.
Yeah,
Oh, good. I'm glad you. Okay.
this is good.
Poor shark.
It's just not cute in your eyes.
It's not true.
Okay, so I have. Let's do the 9 Doctor Who questions. So going around the room from Donna first to Pete. What is your favourite Doctor Who
Ask me that.
villain? And it can be of classic Who. It can be a Big Finish.
I don't know. I really like the Daleks. I'm sorry,
They're iconic.
but I do.
This is one thing that I was thinking about only a couple of days ago, where we've got the new era, and we haven't yet heard. I think they've been mentioned, but we haven't seen any yet.
Daleks.
Yeah.
No.
They've got to go through a redesign because we've had the Time War Daleks for nearly over 20 years now.
Yeah.
How do they up the ante? How do they make the Daleks?
But they tried that with the really big ones.
The big
and
Skittles.
They weren't. They
Yeah,
weren't.
they were.
Lots of people like them.
Did they?
Did not
Yeah.
like the Skittles.
No, I just found that a bit difficult.
I think they looked better when they kind of dulled down the colours. When you saw them in Asylum of the Daleks, where there was only the white one, then they had a maroon one and a royal blue one.
I like the World War II Dalek. You know that one with
Oh
the...
yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
But it was still the classic Time War Dalek casing, wasn't it? It was just painted a different colour.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking, is there a kind of step up for a Dalek to look... To bring back that sinister nature, because I don't know about the rest of you, but Daleks were scary in the first episode, Dalek. In certain parts of their later appearances, they were sinister. You felt a threat from them Whereas now in earlier depictions, they don't feel as much of a threat. They
I
don't
think
feel
in
as
that,
scary.
in that Dalek episode, it's the fact that it was chained and not moving, and the potential to kill,
Yeah.
Yeah.
rather than because as soon as they
It
started killing, I lost the fear. It was the bit where you didn't know what's the word? You didn't know
The
their
capability.
potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The potential is scarier than the actual thing. 'Cause
Okay.
as soon as they start pew-pewing,
I think it was the fear from the Doctor that was.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
scariest
his
thing, wasn't
face,
it?
you're
Yeah.
like,
Oh
I should be
my
scared
God.
of this.
Yeah.
So go on then, Ben. What,
I think for me, from a psychological, because I'm a psychology teacher, I really like. They're called the silence, aren't they?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I like
yeah.
the
Because
silent.
it's that threat that no one remembers. That
Yeah.
deep down, knowing something's wrong, but can't work out what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it's that unconscious. Something's there. Don't know what's there. Something's there.
Yeah.
And that sort of like it's called Q dependency theory, where you forget if you're downstairs and you go, I need to get my hairbrush, and you go upstairs and you forget what you're getting. What do you do? What do you do when you forget? If you
Get
got
annoyed at myself.
or you go back to where you
Yes.
thought about it and
Yeah.
you will remember it. And I find that with the silences, as soon as you're now not looking at them,
Yeah.
deep down you know something. You know
Yeah.
something's wrong. You know something's there, and they're sort of like that means that they could be here right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the word. It's always there.
And
Always there.
I definitely felt there was almost like a Slender Man parallel. Again, from what I was saying earlier, they're humanoid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're in suits.
Yeah, so they have a familiar element,
Yeah.
but they're coming at you with malicious intent, and that's what makes them.
I know uncanny valley is not the right word, but it's
No.
Yeah, I know what you
you
mean.
you know of their shape. You know
Yes.
of them.
Yes.
It's just something's wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Pete?
It doesn't have a name, but the creature in Listen, that may or may not have been a creature under that blanket. It
yeah.
gives me the fucking heebie-jeebies every time because it does again slightly uncanny valley when he does pull the sheet off his head and it's still very blurry, but you think you can kind of see a face. I'm literally getting my chills up on my back of the neck now. It freaks me out.
And
And I know he's not a bad guy. I know he's not a villain, but he is kind of portrayed as the villain
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
He's the bad. He's the big bad of that episode.
It's mischievous. Is
I don't think he's mischievous. That's making him too cute. He's,
yeah, but not in like a I don't know.
he's terrifying. It's terrifying because it's again another. I don't know what the fuck that was.
So along
And is he under my bed?
so along
That's
as
why I always get a bed to the floor. I can't be doing things under my bed. No,
okay.
I have a bed to the floor.
fair.
So I don't know if that kind of. Yeah.
Along a similar vein, but mine would probably have to be the Midnight Monster.
That was going to be my other answer.
And I
It's
think
because they're confined, right? And they're stuck there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so things are coming.
And
but
you don't know what it. Again, you don't know what it is. You never find out what
Yeah.
it is.
But there's a simple line from that episode which I think is so effective when the Doctor's in the cockpit with the two pilots and one of the pilots sees this creature and the Doctor and the other don't, and he says to describe it what was happening, and his only reply was it's running, and he was like, in what direction? Towards us. The idea of whatever this shadow creature is or whatever, just gunning it.
Yeah, that is.
It's terrifying.
And the term running, so this thing must have a humanoid.
Humanoid
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
that's-
Yeah, it's a feet descriptive.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It has feet. We know that. We're debunking slowly. This thing has feet. We don't know outside of that.
Is it flying?
It
though?
might have paws. If it's running, it might have paws or hooves.
Yeah.
True. So I'm not going to do all of these because I feel like we're going to add another hour to this. But favorite TARDIS interior, Donna.
Don't know.
Do you want me to circle back?
I don't really concentrate on it. I concentrate more on the story, so I wouldn't
Okay.
even be able to tell you what they looked like.
Okay,
So I don't know.
that's fair.
I like the classic element, but I like it the modern one. It's not so recently, but it has the classic feel.
What in Shooty's era? Or...
In Shooty's era,
Okay,
because
yeah.
first of all, it's got a ramp, which is very
Love it. We love the
inclusive.
accessibility ramp.
But it still has the circles in it, and it's like the David Tennant one. I struggle with a little bit. The one where he explodes, is that Chris Eccleston? The
It's
one where he
both
does
of
this
them,
and
yeah.
it starts to fall down.
Yeah, Coral TARDIS.
Yeah, because that doesn't give me TARDIS vibes, and I think they're going back to the classic era of
Well, they are. Yeah, even
Yeah.
down to the color scheme. It's whitewashed.
yeah,
And,
and I like that because that feels mechanical and
Yeah.
it feels like a spaceship. which it is a spaceship.
But it's also alive. Which
It
is
is
why
also
lots of people
alive.
like the coral TARDIS because it's showing like it's almost like its veins or its feelers coming out of the ground.
I don't know. I see it more as like a cyborg-esque
Okay.
sort of. If we're going to talk about like what it pictures RoboCop to me
Okay.
in a certain way, or Cyberman. Just thought that, but yeah.
Pete?
I do enjoy the grungy coral vibe.
Yeah.
I do like that, but my favourite is 12's. For Bill's era, where it's slightly got like more of the books and the library esque in that lovely old wood, and his desk's all that wood, but then it's a stark contrast with like this metal chair and the blue lighting in that is just.
I think I may land on a similar.
Yeah.
I do like the coral TARDIS and the kind of grunge phase because again, he's come straight out of the Time War, so the TARDIS isn't going to look sleek.
it's
It's
not
going to be
pretty
just have
right now,
bits
yeah.
hanging off of it, and it's going to look shit. But
Yeah.
the nice refined one with the books is also very, very nice.
Yes. Mainly because that's what I want my house to look like.
And I suppose the last one, which I suppose dips. I know there's a planet that you don't want to go to, Ben, but if there's a Doctor Who world, or let's say setting as well, setting or planet, where would you personally want to go?
If the weird robot things weren't there, I'd like to go somewhere you can go through all the doors to go to different places. What one's that?
Oh, the hospital planet. Well, it's like a facility, isn't it?
What
The one where they meet older Amy.
They can go like through a door and they're in a garden. They're in
Red
like,
Waterfall
gardens and yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
the most recent one with Shooty Gatwick?
No.
It was the Amy one.
11th
Amy.
Doctor.
Oh, okay.
She got
yes,
older,
yes,
didn't
yes.
she? And then
The
she
girl who waited, yeah.
Yes,
okay.
but if the creepy, horrible robots
If the handbots weren't there.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I like the one. I think it's Matt Smith's era, where the whistling. He's there with River Song.
I know that's 12.
Singing Towers.
The Singing Towers.
Yeah, that's 12.
Yeah, that's just. It looks beautiful, and it looks like a place where you could just.
Beryllium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to take my fiancée there, who we are now.
Are you back together
We're
now?
back together now. I've forgiven her. Yeah.
See, Beryllium was going to be mine. I'll have to change it.
That can be yours too. No. We have to have some
We're
common
more
ground that you guys
enemies
meet on.
Either Beryllium or I want to go on the spaceship with the dinosaurs.
Okay, yeah.
Of course
Of course
I do.
you do.
Yeah.
I want to see my rhino's ancestors. I want to see the Triceratops.
That's
He'd
fair.
be a big
That
fan
would
of
be
yours.
cool.
I'd love him
Yeah.
so much. But don't ride them. Bad.
Yes,
Naughty.
that's fair.
He rode him. Rory's dad rode him.
But wasn't it in like a combat situation or just to get
Still
away?
bad. Don't ride the rhinos. Naughty.
We at Never Ever Eat Pears are advocating the non-riding of
The
rhinos.
non-riding of Triceratops and rhinos.
Yes. But perhaps if life or death situation. And doesn't he have like isn't it the whole golf ball thing that he uses to kind of coax?
Yeah,
So he also gets the trike out of danger as well.
And you can use sharks to pull slaves.
Okay, well mine is actually one that's never been seen on screen before, but has a book depicting it. It is the planet of Lucifer, which we hear about in Christopher Eccleston's second to last episode during the Weakest Link section. Where she asks the question about, I think it's the delicacy on the planet Lucifer. Now, Lucifer, for those who are Star Wars fans in the room and are familiar with the planet Bespin or Cloud City, it's very similar to that, almost like a sunset-esque gas giant. The difference is, though, is that sometimes within the clouds, beautiful women are depicted in the clouds, kind of goddesses and gods. And there are also angel-like creatures that inhabit this planet. It's just basically the ultimate sunset world. It's also extremely deadly. You have to go in like a spacesuit and stuff. You can't just breathe that shit. But it's just beautiful and full of mystery and things like that. And that's what I've always loved about Doctor Who, where it's rich with mystery.
But also danger.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
a nice
You've got
little
to kind of. That's what I've loved about if we're talking about stuff on our world, when you're looking at things like a Man of War or things like that, where it's so beautiful, but it will fuck you up.
Don't touch
Yeah.
it. It's spicy.
It's amazing.
It's a spicy jelly. You don't
Spicy
eat
jelly boy,
that
don't
one.
touch it.
But yeah, that's kind of
where we're going to bring this episode to a close. So thank you so much to my wonderful co-hosts and special guests.
I don't know if I want him back. I feel like that was a bit too stressful for me.
I've really enjoyed it.
If we
I've
do,
enjoyed
can
it.
we do something that we like?
Yeah. Let's do one where there's non-humanoids, and then I'll be lovely.
See some Silurians or Sea Devils or something.
Well, I'm looking over to the universe egg, and it seems to be nodding in approval. I think that's a nod. So it's possible that we may be able to do another year's run of our beautiful grubby little podcast. We have a Twitter, which we have. We've had no sad.
We have no. Yeah.
That's something that we always do when we're in an episode and it gets particularly dark or whatever.
Or really
and
sad.
We'll just be like, we have a Twitter. We'll just break up the sadness with that. But it's particularly important that people visit that, because that is where we have put up a poll where people can decide what is the fate of the show after we get to the end of Capaldi's run. Because as much as we don't like to think about it, it's going to happen at some point, as time does march on without our black hole aiding us in preventing that. So Ben
You
is
keep stirring
smiling.
the sheets.
Yes, so please go on there and you can make your choice known on where you would like us to go, and popular vote will prevail once we get to that point of where
Is Primeval still winning?
it's dual winning with class.
Okay.
I voted for class.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we need someone to at least vote for, if we want to keep it Doctor
Keep it Doctor Who-y. We
vote
need to-
class, but also obviously any of the other 4 options are available too for people to decide where they want us to go. But until the next time, Pete, King Ben, and Donna, blasting off into time and space. Happy 1 year anniversary.